Hey, there we go. There we go. There we go. Good afternoon, my dear friends. I wish you an excellent lunch. I haven't had mine yet. You know, right? If you follow the channel, you already know, but I'll go in a little while, okay? Oh, my lovely people, Alexandre de Moraes has just voted and asked for the conviction. Well, not asked, right? He voted to convict. That's his vote. Alexandre de Moraes has just convicted Eduardo Bolsonaro for slander and defamation against federal deputy Tabata Amaral. What happened? Tabata Amaral created a bill with some measures for women, right? Then he went and made statements attacking Tabata Amaral's reputation and so on. Then Tabata filed a complaint, and the federal Supreme Court is hearing this case. And by random selection, it ended up with Alexandre de Moraes, who is the rapporteur. Alexandre de Moraes gave his vote, which is the main one, his opinion for conviction, of Eduardo Bolsonaro. And now the other justices of the first panel will have until the 28th to vote and to say whether they agree with the conviction or not. This crime carries about a little over a year in jail, okay? It's not much, but it adds up little by little. Soon, Eduardo Bolsonaro will have more than 8 years to serve since he is already a defendant in another case for coercion during the proceedings and obstruction of justice before the federal Supreme Court, as we already know. And there will still be this conviction. I believe he will be convicted. Let's take a quick look here so we can understand the process. Moraes votes for the conviction of Eduardo Bolsonaro for defaming Tabata. The proposed sentence is 1 year in jail and a fine for publications from 2021. The case involves a post that linked Tabata to business interests. I'll make it smaller so I can see what was covered up. Tabata Amaral, creator of the sanitary pad bill, had her campaign funded by businessman Jorge Paulo Lemon, who coincidentally is part of the company P&G, which manufactures sanitary pads. And it's a lie. It was a lie. Eduardo Bananina, he wanted to attack the project because he wasn't in favor of providing free sanitary pads for underprivileged communities. So what did he do? He made up this lie, Eduardo Bananina, saying that Tabata was being funded by a company that produces sanitary pads, which is a lie. And now he is facing charges of false accusation and defamation against the Congresswoman. Is this an account or a tale? He will be convicted. Go, go, go. Don't leave me talking to myself. Don't leave me talking to myself. Please, please put it on. Eduardo Bolsonaro. One more for your record. It's going to be another year in jail. Soon they'll add 7 years for coercion during the proceedings and obstruction of justice. You'll go straight to prison in closed custody. Alexandre de Moraes voted for the conviction. And the justices have until next Friday, because it's remote, to vote and decide whether he will be convicted or not for this crime against Congresswoman Tabata Amaral. Emphasizing, it's always important to say, what does this lead to? You already know, my dear, my beautiful. It can lead to ineligibility, you see? Let's move on here. Silas Malafaia. Silas Malafaia, you know that the Attorney General of the Republic also charged Silas Malafaia with insult, slander, and defamation against Thomas Paiva, a general and commander of the Brazilian army. Silas Malafaia, thinking he can do anything, does everything, speaks out, and nothing happens. He went to one of those events on Paulista Avenue and attacked General Thomas Paiva's honor, calling him a coward and everything because he's not a coup supporter, right? And for the Bolsonaro supporters, you know? So he insulted the man there, the general and all that. The Attorney General considered that it was aggression, that it was an offense, that he can't do that. It's what I told you. This kind of crime can only proceed if the Attorney General himself files the complaint. Because there is public interest, because the person holds a high-ranking position within the institutions, the constitutionality of democracy, right? Then Silas Malafaia was formally charged by the Prosecutor General. And now the Supreme Federal Court, Alexandre Moraes, is the justice overseeing the case. Silas Malafaia is in trouble. Alexandre Moraes has set the start of the trial, okay? And look here, look at the situation. Brazil's Supreme Court will resume on April 28th the trial that could make Malafaia a defendant for attacks on army generals. What happened here? Alexandre Moraes has voted to convict Silas Malafaia. Has Andre voted too? Yes, he has. Then Cristiano Zanin requested that the case be moved to an in-person session. What is that, Andrea Gonçalves? When Cristiano Zanin requests that the case be heard in person by the first panel, he wants this case to be judged by the panel in person. In other words, the date you just saw here, the 28th, which is already scheduled, will not be remote. It will be in person before the first panel of the Federal Supreme Court. And I have a feeling that Cristiano Zanin asked for this. Do you know why? For the lessons each of the justices will give. Explaining that freedom of speech doesn't mean you can slander, defame, or insult anyone. Explaining that no one is above the federal constitution and the penal code. And that people can't confuse things, as many, for example, often do. Parliamentary immunity, however, is not the case for Silas because he is not a parliamentarian. But many parliamentarians think that because they have parliamentary immunity, they can attack, offend, threaten, or incite crime. They can't. And that's exactly why, in my view, Cristiano Zanin requested that the trial be held in person, so that we can attend a class on constitutional law, administrative law, combined with criminal procedure and criminal law. Do you understand? That's its purpose. It can only be for that. They made it in person. And obviously, I'm going to attend, and I'll tell you about every detail and the most important moments of the trial. And I believe that in this case, the defendant will be punished. Is it Andrea Gonçalves? Yes, it is. You can already write it down. Eduardo Bolsonaro is screwed. Silas Malafaia is screwed. It's just a matter of time. No. I know, my dear and my darling. I know that sometimes justice is a bit slow, a bit messy. We know that, right? But I also know that the time will come for both Silas and Eduardo Bolsonaro. And haste makes waste in this criminal political arena. Did you get it? By the way, speaking of that, it reminded me of Alexandre Ramage. Alexandre Ramage thinks he's untouchable. Just because he got out of ICE detention. And every little video he's making, like now, he just attacked the federal police in every possible way and attacking Brazil. He thinks he's untouchable. Your time will come, and what you're doing will be used as evidence against you. You hear me, Ramage? Keep going. Go. You're just going along, right? Why? Because the world doesn't just turn, it flips over. When you realize it, it flipped over and you went along with it. If you don't have humility, knowledge, and wisdom, right? And these people, since they're all talk, are all going to get screwed. I'm not going to keep talking to myself. I won't keep talking to myself today. Talk to me, please. Leave your comment. So, Brazil's Supreme Court will resume the trial on the 28th, starting exactly with Cristiano Zanin's vote. Alexandre de Moraes has already cast his vote. Alexandre de Moraes' vote regarding Eduardo Bolsonaro is against the defendant, and Alexandre de Moraes' vote regarding Silas Malafaia is also against the defendant. And let's see what will happen in both situations, which could mean one more year in prison for soon, whatever comes here, and there. Meanwhile, there are people who just want attention, but they're going to get a knock on the door from the federal police. Look here, jerk. State Representative Colonel Azevedo from the PL of Rio Grande do Norte, Bolsonarist representative, shows a gun and threatens Lula. Come here, drunkard. Well, the one who seems like a drunkard, given the circumstances, seems to be Bolsonaro, right? Because Lula is much more of an athlete than anything else. And really, for God's sake, right? Hey, you piece of trash. Hey, you worthless deputy. Afraid of not being reelected, right? That's it. I know. I'm aware. You're terrified of not being reelected there in Rio Grande do Norte. So that's why you started making these tough guy little videos, right? Well, just so you know, you're going to get a visit from the federal police and you're going to have to explain yourself. Do you understand? And another thing, be careful with posts like that. Soon you won't even be able to take part in the election because the TSE is going to clip your wings. And then it won't help to cry and say, oh, it's the persecution of the communist judiciary. Okay? It's the other idiot here. The idiot, a little wannabe, a pathetic low-level thug. Go get a job. As for actual work, no, he won't do that. But this one is also against ending the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. Right, Andrea Gonçalves? Yeah. Yeah. When it comes to working, he doesn't want to. He makes tough guy videos, acts all aggressive, but then covers up for criminals because he's also in favor of overturning the veto on the sentencing guidelines for the Bolsonaristas.
Yes.
Shameless people. Zero and cut. Carlos Bolsonaro's substitute keeps aides suspected of kickback schemes. Oh my God. Carlos Bolsonaro managed to keep 6 of his aides in the office of his substitute, Alana Passos, at the Rio de Janeiro City Council. Of the 6 aides transferred to Passos, 3 are under investigation by the federal police or the Rio de Janeiro Public Prosecutor's Office. One of the aides is Jorge Luis Fernando, who was the chief of staff for Carlos Bolsonaro. Fernandez received a 1,000 reais raise in the substitute's office, and since January of this year, he has been earning 27,800 reais per month. It's all part of the scheme, you know? It's all about the little gravy train and the Rachadinha scheme. Then it gets hard. You know why? Because in Rio de Janeiro, things don't move forward and these people never get caught. Then this situation gets really tiresome. I'm talking about Flavio Bolsonaro, guys. Flavio Bolsonaro, a judge from Rio de Janeiro, dismissed the case against him. Flavio Bolsonaro received 1,512 cash deposits up to 3,000 reais each to avoid setting off Brazil's financial intelligence alerts. Many of those, I used the ATM, so I wouldn't need identification up to 3,000 reais. All of it was done for his chocolate shop, and some of these deposits were made at the ATM in the Legislative Assembly. What was that? The Federal Police and Public Prosecutor's Office say it was money from the Rachadinha scheme, which he took from his aides' salaries. So Rio de Janeiro is a picture of what Brazil will become mixed with the VM law from Argentina, which is what will happen if Flavio wins the elections. Oh my, give me a break. Soon Carluxo will be there trying to run for senator in Rio de Santa Catarina. I can't believe you all are going to vote for this man. Oh, Jesus. I'm speaking quickly today because I'm fired up. Brazil's Supreme Court now has a majority to overturn Santa Catarina's university quota ban. Oh, Jorginho Melo. What a shame, Jorginho Melo, governor of Santa Catarina. They passed a law there to end racial quotas. Everywhere. That's ridiculous. Who didn't expect the Supreme Court to overturn it? The Supreme Court already has a majority to overturn it, and it will. Why? Because it's unconstitutional. You know who the quota law really bothers? Racists. Racists get bothered by the quota law. Oh, come on, for God's sake, there's a gap of years and years and years of reparations that we owe to Black people who were treated worse than dogs in this country in utterly precarious conditions. It's the bare minimum of reparation. Oh, Jesus. And it's going to fall. The Supreme Federal Court will overturn it. They make laws that they know are unconstitutional just to keep things going, sweet talking the racist crowd. That's what they did, you know? And I feel like this, disgusted. Where is the State Attorney General's office? Did they support it? Where is it? Where is the legal counsel of the Legislative Assembly? Where is the legal counsel of the state representatives who voted in favor? To me, voting in favor of something like this, knowing that it is backed by the Constitution, can only be racist. There is no other explanation for this, no. End of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule unsatisfied in a standoff. Mota tries to make Lula drop the bill's fast track status. Here's the thing, Mota. Marmota, let me explain something to you. Get it moving. Get it moving and approve the proposed constitutional amendment to end the 6 days on, 1 day off work schedule. If you do that, don't worry, don't worry. You don't even need to remember the government's bill, which put it right at the tail end, at your tail, exactly so you would go along with the other one. If you don't cooperate, you'll have to accept the government's bill. The government isn't going to take anything out. They don't have to. Put it there, Lula. Don't take it out. End the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule now. The constitutional amendment will only move forward. If it's in Hugo Mota's hands, if not, he's going to stall, just like he's been stalling since the beginning of the year. The end of the 6 days on, 1 day off work schedule should have been approved long ago, but it's delayed because they keep stalling and preventing it from reaching the floor. Because if it reaches the floor, it will be approved because no one will have the courage to vote against it since it's an election year. So for God's sake, hey, Hugo Mota, stop being foolish. Start the clock, approve it, and that's it. It's done.
It has to stop.
Go to hell. This should have been approved a long time ago. And Lula is right. He's not wrong. Because if we let them, they won't approve the end of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. With the end of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule, you, the worker, for every 5 days you work, you get 2 days off. It's more than just working 6 days and only getting 1 day off. There will be no cut in working hours. It will be a gigantic step in defending the interests and rights of Brazilian society, especially workers. And it will only move forward if there's pressure, if someone lights a fire under them on Hugo Mota. Otherwise, he'll stall to keep it off the floor. Because if it goes to the floor, everyone will vote in favor. Even the Bolsonaristas who asked for a review in the CCJ just to stall the process. Because they really don't want it. They refuse to end the 6x1 schedule because they support the boss class, the elite, the boss. Yeah, Nicolas Ferreira even wants to create a boss grant now. He bashes the Bolsa Familia. Now Nicolas Ferreira wants to create the boss grant.
Oh my God. Oh Jesus, turn on the light.
Put it up. End the 6 on 1 off schedule now. Mota, get out. Go to work, get it moving, approve it, and that's it. Everything's sorted. That's what's required. Do you understand? Why are they stalling, Andre? Because if it goes to the floor, they'll have to support it. Because more than 70% of the population is in favor of ending the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. And no one is going to vote against something that has such massive support from the Brazilian population, especially on the eve of an election. Because whoever votes against it won't get elected, won't get reelected. Did you get the message? So they try to stall the process so it doesn't reach the voting stage. Because if it gets there, they'll have to vote in favor. Even the Bolsonaro supporters will have to swallow it and vote in favor. This major achievement will belong to Lula's government. Suck on that, suck on that, suck on that. Just like they had to vote in favor of Lula's income tax exemption for workers. Did you get it? And then there's all this stalling. Go to work, Mugumata, Mugumata, go to work. But work with purpose. Not to stall, but to move the project forward. Douglas Ruas is elected the new president of Alerj in a session marked by obstruction from the Paez group. Douglas Ruas, is Claudio Castro's golden boy. Claudio Castro, governor of Rio de Janeiro. He has been removed from office and is ineligible. Soon he'll be arrested. Now I'm not sure. At first I thought Claudio Castro would be arrested before Ibanez Rocha. Now I'm not so sure. Maybe Ibanez Rocha will be arrested before Claudio Castro because of Paulo Henrique's arrest. Former president of BRB. He was a trusted man of Ibanez Rocha who was arrested. He even said he won't make a plea deal. Wasn't it Andrea Gonzalez? It was. He said he won't make a plea deal, no. Yeah. He challenges the police. That's right. He challenges the police. He challenges everyone. Yeah. Then Claudio Castro resigned and his resignation wasn't valid because the TSE didn't accept it. And he was removed from office and declared ineligible along with the president of the Legislative Assembly, who is in jail right now, Rodrigo Bacelar. Given this context, Rio de Janeiro is without a government, without a vice governor, because the vice governor in 2025 was appointed to the Court of Auditors. He was appointed there by Claudio Castro, exactly to leave the position vacant. Because if Claudio Castro left office this year, Rodrigo Bacelar, the president of the Legislative Assembly, would take over the government from the political group of Claudio Castro and Flavio Bolsonaro in Rio de Janeiro. But the house of cards fell. Claudio Castro was removed from office and declared ineligible. Rodrigo Bacelar was removed from office, declared ineligible, and arrested. This situation. Now, there's neither a governor nor a vice governor. And the president of the Legislative Assembly who was there was arrested. And now a new president of the Legislative Assembly has been elected. Andrea Gonçalves. Is he going to take over the government of Rio de Janeiro?
No way.
The person who has temporarily taken over the government of Rio de Janeiro for now is the president of the Court of Justice, since there was no president of the Legislative Assembly. Meanwhile, the federal Supreme Court will decide whether in Rio de Janeiro there will be a direct or indirect election. From all indications, it will be direct, because the reasons that led to Claudio Castro's removal of the governor, as well as his successor, since there was no vice governor, the president of the Legislative Assembly, Rodrigo Bacelar. Initially, they were electoral issues, since they are electoral issues. There must be direct elections. But let's wait and see what will happen, especially since there is a lack of ethical and moral capacity inside the Legislative Assembly of Rio de Janeiro for someone to take over the interim mandate as governor of Rio de Janeiro. Did you understand, my dear? So it's the federal Supreme Court that will decide how it will be. What did they want for it to be? Rodrigo Bacelar. Rodrigo Bacelar was arrested and removed from office. Then they wanted it to be this Douglas Rua, who is also from Claudio Castro's political group. But the Supreme Court says that's not how it's done. That's not how it is. The Supreme Court will decide this. All right? I know that Rio de Janeiro is in a terrible situation. And my question today is honestly, who's going to be arrested first? Will it be the governor of Rio de Janeiro or the governor of the federal district, Ibanez Rocha, who actually left Brazil a little before the operation, which arrested one of his main allies, the former president of BRB, who took public money, over 12 billion, and threw it down the drain in the Banco Master fraud, buying worthless shares? Where is Ibanez? Did he run away, Andrea Gonçalves? I don't know. He left Brazil, but I still don't know where he went. Oh. Meanwhile, look at that fool. I hope the veto is overturned. Desmota talks about the sentencing bill. The Speaker of the House defends a review of the sentences from January 8th. He says the punishments were exaggerated, and he bets on overturning Lula's veto. That's right. It's now scheduled for the end of this month. A joint session in the National Congress. Ali estabelecida by Davi Alcolumbre, president of both the National Congress and the Senate. And on this occasion, Lula's veto will be analyzed. Lula vetoed the sentencing bill. The National Congress tried in every way to pass an amnesty bill. They didn't succeed. So then they approved a sentencing bill. What is that? It reduces the sentences of the coup plotters convicted for January 8th, including Bolsonaro. Lula stepped in and vetoed it with a stroke of the pen. And now the National Congress at the end of this month, on the 30th, if I'm not mistaken, unless they move it up. I think they might move it up to the 29th. They are going to review Lula's veto, and their idea is to overturn Lula's veto and restore the sentence reduction for the coup plotters. That's the situation. All right? I mean, none of this surprises me because we have a National Congress. In my view, a significant part of it is made up of coup plotters, representatives and senators, unfortunately, who don't really care about true democracy. They just want to maintain power for the sake of power. That's what they want. It doesn't matter if it's a monarchy, a dictatorship, a presidential system, or a parliamentary system. It doesn't matter. If I'm in power, everything is fine. If I'm living off the government, it's wonderful. Coup plotter, who doesn't care about democracy, just wants to get rich, like a professional politician. So what happens? Then they overturn Lula's veto. I'm not even surprised. That's all this National Congress offers. Now, a warning that I've already given you, and I'm going to give it again. I have a veto from Lula, which I don't doubt they'll put together in the same pile to overturn. And they do everything on the sly. And in the back rooms and in the corridors of the National Congress, the National Congress approved it. The increase in the number of federal deputies. Today we have 513 federal deputies, which to me is already a lot. I'm not going to lie. In fact, in a little while, I'm going to show you how much was spent last year with the National Congress, with the representatives and senators. And they went ahead and increased it by 18 more federal representatives, going from 513 to 531 federal representatives, a total outrage. Many of them are Bolsonaro supporters. They voted overwhelmingly in favor. They're saying it was an order from the federal Supreme Court. That's a lie. The federal Supreme Court gave an order for adjustment in the distribution of the number 513 according to the population updated, provided by IBGE of each state. The redistribution of the 513, that was what the federal Supreme Court determined. Then the National Congress found it easier to create 18 more seats instead of redistributing the 513 that already exist. So there are a lot of Bolsonaro supporting representatives out there who voted in favor, campaigned, did everything, and then to justify themselves. They claim the Supreme Court ordered it, but that's false. And I don't doubt it, that during this review of the vetoes, in other words, the veto on sentencing, they'll sneak it in down there quietly without saying a word. The overturning of Lula's veto, also the one he vetoed, this shamelessness of increasing the number of federal deputies, I don't doubt it. And I'll keep an eye on that. Because if they want to strike it down, they absolutely can. They just have to say clearly what they're striking down. And then so you don't get caught by surprise, it used to be 513 representatives. Now it's 531, but that's how it went. Especially because it costs a lot of money. It's a lot of money. And many of those representatives and senators too cost a lot of money. They are against ending the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. In other words, it's like a whip on the worker's back while they earn almost 50,000 rees to work a 3 days on, 4 days off schedule. And you're just asking for 1 more day off. That's all you're asking for. You're not even asking for a 3 days on, 4 days off schedule. Not even a 4 days on, 3 days off schedule. You're asking for a 5 days on, 2 days off schedule. You work 5 days and get 2 days off. And there are representatives who are against it. So we need to keep an eye on this issue of the vetoes. And we have to keep an eye on it too. On this issue of Lula's veto, opposed to increasing the number of federal deputies, since they could also overturn Lula's veto, it's all bundled together, so you might not even notice. Meanwhile, let's see. Here, some information, the official transparency portal of the National Congress. So you can understand, because you deserve it, to have 2 days off a week without a pay cut. If a congressman, a senator spends what they spend here now, which I'm going to show you, you should at least have the minimum, since this is still the minimum for me. For every 5 days worked, you have the right to 2 days off without a pay cut. That's the minimum. That's interesting. I went and checked the pay stubs because the representatives' pay stubs are there. Did you know there isn't a single absence for anyone? On the official pay stub, there isn't a single absence for anyone. And there are a lot of people who don't go to work. Their schedule, it's 3 out of 4. They have to show up 3 times a week in the chamber, but many only show up once. And they're not marked as absent. Do you know what they say? They say this: I was working in my district. Sometimes he was at his house. And they don't get marked absent. There's no absence recorded in the system. So now you'll say you weren't absent, but you were. Some representatives only worked 100 days this month. Not in a month, in a year. Let's take a look at some important numbers here so we can understand this whole process. I'll make it bigger so we can see. Look here. Parliamentary expenses from last year. I won't show this year because it's not over yet. From last year. The expenses, legislative expense allowance. How much did the federal deputies spend from the legislative expense allowance last year? 261,758,000. 498. My God, real cent. Thousand. Million. Almost 262 million just from the legislative expense allowance last year, which was spent on the deputies and the senators from the legislative expense allowance, office funds. How much was spent last year? Almost 1 billion reais, 277, which was 277 million. Spent 277 million. About 770,000. 547 reais and 71 cents just from office funds, from housing allowance. How much was spent, Andrea? 5,219,841 reais and 80 cents. How much was spent on official trips? 6,359,068 reais and 46 cents. Here you can go to the detailed search and you'll see how much each person spent. Guys, for God's sake, these are official data from last year. This year's data isn't finalized until December, so I haven't included it yet. This year, they will probably spend even more. Billions of reais are being spent on deputies and senators on the funds they are entitled to. I'm not even mentioning other things like infrastructure or staff. I'm only talking about what is spent directly on the deputies and senators. Legislative expense allowance, each deputy has their own. Every month. Office funding, everyone gets it every month. There's also a housing allowance. There's also a travel allowance and all the other things you can imagine. And they still have a salary of almost 50,000 reais, and their schedule is 3 days on, 4 days off, and they're still not required to show up because they don't show up and give a far-fetched excuse. And it's not even a matter of time. And this congressman and this senator have the nerve, the cynicism, and the audacity to be against it. The end of the 6 days on, 1 day off schedule. That's just not acceptable, right, guys? There are some things we just can't tolerate. Shall we take a look at a tweet here? Shall we check out a sparrow? Go ahead and hit the like button, like, comment, and share, my dear. And to you too, beautiful, we're in this together always. Let's start with this one here.
This is Senator Flavio Bolsonaro. I already knew this could happen.
Senator Flavio Bolsonaro bought a mansion worth almost 6 million reais in an upscale neighborhood of Brasilia. The price of the house is almost 4 times the value of the assets he himself declared in the 2018 elections.
The federal police operation is a new phase of Operation Compliance Zero. And there is already confirmation of the arrest of the former president of BRB, Paulo Henrique Costa.
Part of the value of the house, 3,100,000 reais, was financed by BRB Banco de Brasilia with interest rates of 3.7% per year. The standard financing rate is 4.85%.
It's a huge increase in assets for a family that has lived off politics their whole life. Flavio Bolsonaro's own chocolate shop, to justify the frenzy with which he bought and sold real estate, would have to be like Willy Wonka's factory from Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. It wasn't plausible that that could justify so much success in the real estate market. You buy for so little and sell for so much later on. There was also this variation in assets, what they declared when they bought and then how much they appreciated in value.
How do you buy a house and launder money by getting a bank loan?
Here is the senator.
Yeah, you know who it was, right? Who gave the loan money to Flavio Bolsonaro to buy that mansion? Pedro Henrique is in jail. At this very moment, Ibanez Rocha's right-hand man in the Banco Master fraud. Oh, Andre, it's not a coincidence. It's a consequence. You don't understand. And everything is going to fall apart. Let it fall.
Look, the arrest of Paulo Henrique Costa, president of BRB, by the federal police in the master case is a bombshell for the Bolsonaro supporters. It will lead to the arrest of Ibanez, of many allies of Flavio Bolsonaro, and it will make life much harder for Flavio Bolsonaro himself. It was the president of BRB himself who authorized that scandalous loan for that 6 million mansion. Even more serious, 247 just published that Ibanez, on the day the central bank decided that BRB couldn't buy Master, it was September 3rd. He gave a statement to Metrop, it's there on 247 that same day, saying that PT and PSB were to blame for that. That embezzlement that was proven today is that the president of BRB, Ibanez's appointee, along with many other proteges, is accused of having embezzled 140 million. I've been saying, folks, that this investigation only moved forward because of Lula and Haddad's decision. Do you think that if the federal police were under Bolsonaro, Forcaro would have been arrested? Would there have been this arrest of the president of BRB? No. Lula's position is clear. You will have to go all the way and you will see the truth come out about all of this. The father of this whole scheme is Bolsonarism.
That's right. And if everything falls apart, let it fall. But it's not over yet. It's not over yet, Alligator.
It's not over. Flor da Idade is a beautiful song by Chico Buarque, like all of them, but it ends up saying that he loved the whole gang. Now I saw this scandal with Banco Master. I was at the CPMI, and I keep remembering today. Paulo Henrique Costa, president of the PRB, who loved Ibanez, governor of Brasilia, very much, was arrested. Ibanez loved Flavio Bolsonaro very much, who even received money to buy a mansion, money from the PRB. Flavio Bolsonaro, who loved Jair Bolsonaro very much, who is in jail for attempting a coup. Jair Bolsonaro, who loved Trump very much, who is now waging war and threatening to invade all countries, including Brazil, with the Bolsonarista gang supporting him. Yeah, folks, Chico's Flor da Idade is beautiful. But the Bolsonaristas' Rose of Hiroshima is a tragedy, a criminal gang, and a massive corruption scheme, and a threat to humanity. Thank you.
And they still haven't seen the thorns of the roses. Roses have thorns and the thorns have claws. And the claws seem to grip our skin. And the thorns are coming and they're going to catch the schemers. And what if everything falls apart? Andrea Goncalves, stop being silly, but I really can't take it. Can you handle all of this? I can't. I have to do this. Otherwise, I can't take it. I can't. I just can't.
Flavio Bolsonaro, you really are a blowhard, aren't you? Guys, take a look at this statement that Flavio Bolsonaro made about the militia CPI, which I presided over in 2008 when he was a state representative and voted against its creation. Look at what he says.
You and Brasão were the only lawmakers to oppose the militia parliamentary inquiry that Marcelo Freixo created.
No, because he started it and always worked against the police. Man, I've already gone up the hill to take part in police operation reenactments, while these kinds of politicians who misunderstand human rights would go there just to harm the police officers. I went up the hill to make sure that didn't happen, so that the investigation would be carried out impartially. So at the beginning, the discussion was still very incipient. Nobody understood what that was. It was something new, let's put it that way.
Yeah, right. Hey, Flavio, stop being a show-off. First of all, you went up the hill. Which hill did you go up, Flavio? For God's sake, now you're an expert. You've never gone up any hill, man. You've never had the guts for any of that. Let's start with you and Brasson. Look how telling that is. Brasson is in jail today, right? For being the mastermind behind Marielle's death. You and Brasson voted against setting up the parliamentary inquiry. Just the two of you. Everyone else in the assembly understood that it was necessary to investigate the militias back in 2008. And then you come and tell me you justify it and say the following, no, but at the time, nobody really knew what it was. At the time, nobody knew what it was. Hey, Flavio, my brother was killed by the militia in 2006, 2 years before the opening of that parliamentary inquiry. The militia was already absolutely well known. In fact, you, Flavio, knew it very well. You knew Adriano da Nobrega very well. You hired his family to work in your office. You knew Robson, Major Robson, very well, whom you honored. You honored a bunch of militia members before the inquiry. Now you come and tell me you didn't know. You weren't really sure what a militia was. Stop being shameless, Flavio. Stop being shameless. And you used to say, no, but Frakesel was against the police. Hey, man, this investigation was about the militia. So you think that not investigating the militia is protecting the police. That's your idea of what the police are. Look, investigating the militia is protecting the police from crime. Investigating the militia is making a distinction. It's separating bad cops from good cops, and that's protecting the police. Protecting the police means confronting the bad cops, those who get involved in crime. You never understood that. You never did that. On the contrary, you think you protect the police by protecting crime within the police. That's our big difference, Flavio, and that's what we're going to expose here this year. You have always been on the wrong side of this whole public security issue. You hired and honored a bunch of militia members. You were against the investigation, against the militia. That's who you are. And now you try to be someone else, but you won't succeed. Flavio Bolsonaro.
Have you noticed that wherever Flavio Bolsonaro is, there are salary kickback schemes and militia ties? Militinha sounds sweet, but it's not affectionate at all. Wherever Flavio Bolsonaro is, are there salary kickback schemes and militia ties? Have you ever stopped to think about that? Yeah, guys, there's nowhere to run, really. And Lionel Reid said that here, too. A little something about this situation and a bit more. Go ahead.
So Paulo Henrique Costa was arrested today. And as you said, well, Magda, we had warrants served in the states of São Paulo and the federal district in another phase of Operation Compliance Zero, which aims to investigate crimes involving Banco Master. Paulo Henrique Costa was the president of the Regional Bank of Brasilia, a state-owned bank from the state of Brasilia. And Paulo Henrique was the president appointed by Governor Ibanez Rocha. And in fact, later we will go further, I believe, regarding Federal District Governor Ibanez Rocha, the ties he had to Paulo Henrique, and the information he was requesting. The BRB, at that time when Banco Master was already being identified as a bank that wasn't financially sound and was committing fraud, he tried in every way to make BRB, the Regional Bank of Brasilia, the State Bank of Brasilia, actually of the Federal District, by Banco Master.
O Banco Central, já em 2020.
He vetoed this purchase by BRB, and now, as a result of the investigations, it was shown that Paulo Henrique received 140 million reais in properties. There were 6 properties that, when added together, amounted to 140 million reais to favor these transactions with Banco Master, mainly in the purchase of securities and also in the possible purchase of the regional bank, the Brasilia Bank, which had an interest in buying Banco Master. And so, was it from the investigations that these 6 properties were discovered? As part of the quid pro quo from Banco Master, Vorkar, and Zettel, in short, all those people who were negotiating with the president of the Regional Bank of Brasilia. So he was arrested today and more warrants were executed, probably to get more information about Operation Compliance Zero. So we'll probably have information in the next few days. Paulo Henrique Costa was arrested today.
Yeah, and everything is falling apart, and I want all hell to break loose. And that all the criminals, it doesn't matter if they're right or left, it doesn't matter, go to jail. That's how it must be and will be. If there's justice in this brave Brazil, right, Flavio? A salary kickback scheme goes well with a little jail time. Our dear Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, our president of the Republic, is in Spain, even talking about rare minerals. Maybe forming a partnership with Spain to bring wealth and technology to Brazil to explore these resources here, right? It's not like those who just want to give everything to Donald Trump. No, it's about enriching here, bringing wealth here, creating jobs and technology. He is there, and he had a press conference together with Pedro, the prime minister there, the president of Spain. Let's watch a little bit of Lula's speech, always very constructive and necessary. Turn up the volume.
Good afternoon, Prime Minister. My question is about one of the agreements that were just signed. It's about rare minerals, critical minerals. What exactly was agreed upon then between Spain and Brazil? Given pressure from some powers to exploit these minerals, I want to highlight threats from American President Donald Trump to Greenland, as well as threats and pressure on Spain and Ukraine. So how do Brazil and Spain position themselves in this context? Thank you.
For Brazil. If not, it takes advantage of this phase of the energy revolution that the world fights so much over. And if it doesn't take advantage of its rare earths and critical minerals, we would say it's throwing away an opportunity. Brazil has already missed the gold cycle. When they took everything, many countries got rich and Brazil remains poor. Latin America has already missed the gold cycle, the silver cycle, the pearl cycle, the iron ore cycle, the wood cycle. We can't let the wealth nature gave us keep us from becoming rich. So we are willing to make agreements with all the countries that make agreements with Brazil. And the transformation process will take place within Brazil. We are not going to repeat with critical minerals and rare earths what happened with iron ore and bauxite. We are not going to. We will take responsibility. We have a National Council for Mineral Policy, which will oversee this. It's a matter of national security for us. It's a matter of national security. We want to build partnerships with anyone who wants to build, anyone who wants to help us, anyone who wants to bring technology and share technology with us. We will welcome them with open arms and work it out. But no one except Brazil will own our mineral wealth.
Well, there was also a part where Lula talked about social media. Let's see the part where Lula spoke one more little bit here, which is very important for us to stay tuned and aware. Look here.
It needs to be clear to humanity that everything that is a crime in the world, It also needs to be a crime in the virtual world. If something is a crime in real life, it also has to be a crime in the digital world. You can't treat it as normal or as freedom of speech. The industry of lies, the industry of spreading hate, the industry of verbal violence, the industry of misinformation, as it has been happening around the world, that's unacceptable. The Digital Child and Adolescent Statute for the Protection of Teenagers is a first step in regulation that we need to take on several other issues. Many issues. For example, the amount of betting on Brazilian television. It was important to say here to the Spanish press and to the Brazilian press, Brazil is historically against gambling. Historically. Brazil was once the world's most religious and important Catholic country with a large Catholic population, even by that standard. And suddenly, a casino entered our home through our cell phones. And one of the things that is putting society in debt, making people spend what they shouldn't, is betting in the digital world. So if the government doesn't regulate this, we've already banned cell phones in schools, in elementary education. There were a lot of people who thought it wasn't a good idea, but it was an extraordinary success. The children started behaving like human beings again. The children started playing soccer again. The children went back to playing all kinds of games they had always played. And they forgot about their cell phones for a while. And now we need to regulate everything in the digital sphere so we can protect our country's sovereignty and prevent outside interference, especially in an election year. We are following what's happening in the world. We know about the lie factories and disinformation farms being set up worldwide. So we in Brazil want to say loud and clear, Ike Digital was just the first step. There will be another regulation in Brazil. And I hope the world is aware of that. Because the issue of digital regulation is not a problem of one country or one continent. It's a problem for humanity. I always say that I don't want to lose what makes me human. I don't want to become an algorithm. I want to be a man with passion. I want to be a man with feelings. I want to truly love. I don't want anything digital. I want everything, so that we can go back to behaving like human beings. To have affection, to have love, to have feelings, to be supportive. That's what I want for humanity. Therefore, we are going to work hard on regulation. Of all the platforms that cause any harm to democracy, sovereignty, and people's happiness, the internet is not for spreading hate. It's not for spreading lies. It's not for spreading violence. Anyone who uses the internet knows what I mean.
This is our president. Go, go, go. Lula, 4-time champion. Another little snippet from the very important and necessary speech of our president of the republic. Take a look here.
The nations that created the UN do not respect the UN. The UN's decisions aren't followed. In fact, there are many countries that do not respect a decision. So you start to realize that what was created to strengthen the democratic process is fading away. It's being depleted. And then society starts to get worried because democracy reached its highest peak, creating the welfare state, for a part of the population, especially here in Europe. And in the last 20 years, in most countries, the working class has only been going backwards. Wealth concentration is rising. Hard-won human rights earned through struggle are being taken away. So democracy is weakening. And then what gains strength? Nothing better gains strength. Extremism gains strength. Where you don't have to respect or obey anyone, democracy is worth nothing. Unions are worth nothing. Women are worth nothing. Black people are worth nothing. Nothing is worth anything. What matters is the stupidity of someone saying a speech with no beginning or end. Society believes this only because it is dissatisfied with something. So, since we believe in something else, it's up to us to hold the meetings we're having to start building an awareness that democracy needs spokespersons at the international level. Because imagine something, Comrade Peter. Social democracy was something very important in the world. It was very important in Europe. The Communist Party and the Communist International were both important. I remember that when I got to know Italy, I got to know the PCI as the biggest communist party in the West. They ran in elections, got 33%, and always lost to the Christian Democrats. When they came to power, it was over. When they won the elections, they lost motivation. What happened? So I have this restlessness to try to find the causes to see if we can come up with a proposal. Where is our argument wrong? Where are our public policies failing to meet the expectations of young people who want a new world of work? So the challenge, and I want to thank you, Pedro, for this meeting, the challenge of holding a meeting and trying to bring progressive people together is very important because there are fewer and fewer progressives. I took part in the first meeting of progressives with Bill Clinton, Tony Blair, Felipe González, Beck from South Africa, and Prodi from Italy. Today, at the first meeting we held at the UN, we didn't even want to use the word progressive because we wanted to invite Macron, we wanted to invite Biden, so we used the word Democrat. Let's try to bring together the Democrats of the world. And we started to realize that there were only a few. But now we already have a lot of people. We have a lot of people. And Pedro achieved something extraordinary. If our president from Mexico comes and our president from South Africa comes, besides other people, it already means that our group is growing. We need to give hope to the world. We need to have a message that gives hope, that inspires people to dream. No one has a solution in mind. What we want is to discuss, to see if we can find a solution to strengthen the democratic process in the world, so that we don't allow any setbacks. Because when there is a setback, you get a Hitler. Isn't that right? You get Nazism, you get fascism. Democracy is the best thing in the world. Democracy allows for a change of power. One day it's a right-wing guy, the next a left-wing guy, but it's still civilized. I campaigned, Pedro, against right-wing people in my country, where after a public event, you would meet your opponent at a restaurant and greet each other, each having dinner at your own table. Today, most people can't do that. They can't. In other words, the internet is being used to promote violence, to attack opponents. So look, if we don't take on this task, who will? So I think we have to take advantage of the position we have so that we can try to send a message to the world that democracy is the best system of government. And that with all the flaws that democracy has, there's still nothing better than it. If it weren't for democracy, a metal worker without a university degree would not become the president of Brazil for the third time. He would be Brazil's longest serving president. So that's democracy with its mistakes and flaws. You know, alternation of power, of social class, of race, of gender. That's what's beautiful about democracy. It's that it allows civilized debate to result in a government that knows how to respect the rights of the whole society. That's why I'm very proudly participating in this meeting in Barcelona, so that we can build one more little piece, you know, of the road called democracy that the world needs so much.
That's it, my dear. Lula is shining. I put the link here. Look, this link here. Look here. Look, you click it and join our WhatsApp channel. Many people are not receiving the YouTube notification. Whenever there's a live stream, I'll put the link to the live here. Look, so you don't miss it. And in other situations, I also post updates there first. I make some quick little videos really quick. I post them there, clips, information. I put everything there. So the link, you can join here through the QR code. You just need to have WhatsApp. It's free. You don't pay anything. Be careful with scams. And here's the link. Look, I'll give you the link here too, here in the chat. Look, that's the WhatsApp group link right there. Just join. Join there, and I'll keep you updated on the situations. Okay. This other one is for you to help with the 5 rays I'm going to spend today if you can. If you can't, that's fine too. Like the live, comment, and share. And it's wonderful, my dear. And Lula, I just put the link there now. Look, there's the link. Look at the link here, guys. Look at the link. Join us on WhatsApp. You need to have WhatsApp, right, on your phone. That's it. You don't pay anything. It's free. There's nothing. Nothing will be charged at all, for God's sake. Because these days there were people selling financial management courses using my image and my name. I'm not selling any of that. What I have is the shopping platform connected to Mercado Libre, Magazine Luiza, and Shopee. The links will always be here in my live streams. If they're not, it's not real. So here you join the WhatsApp channel, our WhatsApp resistance channel. Okay, my dear, like the live stream, it's very important. Share and leave your comment. Let's stay engaged. Let's stay together. And we are the resistance, always defending and supporting democracy, dignity, and respect. Do you understand? That's how it has to be. And that's what we're striving for. More information, awareness, and knowledge so that people aren't led and treated like cattle. That's what we're striving for together. That's why it's so important when you like, comment, and share. All right. And join the group here too. It's really cool. Okay. You just need to have WhatsApp on your phone. Obviously have WhatsApp. And that's it. It's over. When the live ends here, I'm going to send you a kiss now over in the group. Okay. All right then. Did you like, comment, and share? That's great. At 4:30 p.m., I'll be back with a highlight of the main topic we talked about today for you to like, comment, and share. Okay. And here in the WhatsApp group, I've already posted a little highlight there too. Nice. Talking about the shamelessness of the Senate committee that goes to visit criminals in the United States on the public dime. See, that's it. We're always together. If you like it, stay, comment, and share. If not, that's fine. Everyone does what they want. Got it? It's all good. Kisses, kisses, kisses. Hit that like button. Put it, Lula. Tetra. Much love to you. See you on the next live stream. Take care. Bye-bye. Kisses, Brazil. We're in this together.